memorabilia, but Alexandria is, of course, my top thing. Um, this is the picture of the grandstand crowd on in the 60s. Let's see. Let's see if I can figure out this out. So in the state assembly decided they were trying to get out information to the rural public about new seeds. They're hard. They work hard and they don't leave much. So they decided they made this committee, which later became the agricultural department, and their job was to get the news out. So they did a meeting and they came up with ideas. They decided the county fair is what they needed. So they started the Tennessee Agriculture and Mechanical Fair, and they opened it up. The first year they did 3 divisions. They did it in 1853 is when they decided. So they decided to do it in 3 and 4. They did it in They did it in 3 areas: Middle to East and West Tennessee. The one in East Tennessee was done in Knoxville. The one in Middle was done at Gallatin. They actually had one two times, and the Western Division was in Fayette County. So, but they had such a turnout and they had so much uh, success at it. They decided that they would open it to all the fairs. So the pictures on this thing is the 2 different pictures of the. I can't decide if they're kind of blurry anyway. Maybe they the 2 on this side are different pictures in different times of the fair bridge that goes across the over from the square over across to which was the business district, to the fairgrounds. This is a map of the fair at that time. This, I'm going to go up there so you can see it. I don't know if you can see it that good. Of course, here's the walk bridge I just showed you right here, going over to the ticket booth. These are all stables for individual people to rent. They rented those during the fair so they could bring their stock in, and then they would. It was kind of pricey, so sometimes they would find a farm, and a farmer would rent them to them cheaper that were close. But these were all the stables. This was the ladies' bathroom. It was an outhouse, and it had like 8 holes. It was big. And then there's the bins. They both hang over the creek, as you can see. So when you went in to go to the bathroom, it went straight into the creek and washed away, and you didn't have any smell. Great. These people are smart. So they had 2 places that had wells, which are still there. One was behind the grandstand. This one is closed off, but of course the water was still there. I remember it. Probably some of y'all remember it. It was a concrete building that had 2 water fountains there on this side, and that was just for the stock. So the grandstand, this is the grandstand. The animals came through under the grandstand. There was a bridge here and a platform for the people and this was a double, 2-sided gazebo that was 2, and they had stage here. So there is the woman's building that you walked across the bridge. I don't know if y'all wonder, it's up there. You walk across. This map probably came from, I'm thinking 1919, 1920, about it in those days, because this was one after a big wash. They had a tornado and broke everything down, and they did this to put it back. So you came in here for if you driving, of course you could park on the square, but you could come in here, which they still have that little road. But where the houses are, they had parking back there, and then that was a big thing when the cars came out, was you could get free parking. Um, Let me see. Let me go to another one. And then the carnival was down in the bottom, where it is now. The earlier fairs, the fairs were in the bottom. I mean, the stables were in the bottom. That was another flood and tornado. So, and the big thing, and I think I have some of them. I kind of did a random thing. So I think it's just not, that's just so blurry. Let me help me here. Nope, that's worse. Okay. Can you get that to work better? Do we need to move it up some? These are free acts. Actually, I have a picture of them there. I don't know if you can't see it, but there's that double gazebo here up in the corner, and you've got the lady. She's bouncing on a ball. She's got a big ball she's bouncing on. These were actually pretty bad anyway. These 2 pictures are, but they're some of the oldest ones I got of that era, and but they went through a flood also a couple of times. This is he was the first director of the fair, and yeah, I think I've got first spelled wrong, but if anybody knows me, I can't spell worth a dime. And if spell check don't catch it, it's gone. Um, he was on the fair board. That's Mr. Goodner. Ooh, nice. All right. Better. Thank you, tech person. Um, that's Mr. Odom, Bert Odom. These were people that actually owned the fair and was on the board at one time. And I have more, but this is Mr. Rob Roy. He was most famous for his daddy was on the first board, and then he came in and bought it, and he ran it well from the last of the 1800s all the way up to the 1940s, and he was just phenomenal in what he did. He lived and breathed the fair. That was just his thing. I talked to his daughter when she was like in her 90s, and she just said from the time the fair stopped, Daddy was working on the next fair. So it was just, he was trying to find something great to do. This is Dib Burks. He actually for a living he went he started at the Alexandria Fair doing pyrotech, and he did all the fireworks. Then he branched out to other county fairs and other things, and so he ended up being. I actually, and this is an idea I want y'all to consider. On Black History Month, I go to school sometimes, and there's a thing you can do with salt and glue. You put it on and make a little design like fireworks. And we remember Mr. Dibb because he's air. He's one of our people that need to be remembered in Black History or any month, I guess. This is the 1994. This is the first fair board after the city bought it. Now let me back up again because I skipped what I wanted to say about the Oak Fest. Okay, so they did the first fairs, the first four. They opened it up to everybody. Alexandria, DeKalb County Fair, put their permit in on April the 26th in 1856. That was the first year it was open for all counties. There were a lot of county fairs that opened that year. There's a book in the library, in the state library. It's an agricultural book. Well, every year, even now, we send in how your weather was, what your gate was, what your receipt, what you gave stuff away in. So it's very detailed. You can find out, a lot of things from that book. So I went to the book, and like I say, I got quite a lot. It was pretty. It was in October. The 15th was our first fair. But we had to. It was supposed to be on the 11th, but it snowed, and so they had to move it up to the 15th. So they had a good crowd. They were very tickled with it. They ended up spending, by the time they bought 3 acres to put it on, they put up stands, and they put up arena, gate, fence, and the way they funded it was they opened it up to get stockholders. If you wanted to be a stockholder, you could pay $10 for a lifetime membership, and then if you wanted just a week pass for that year, it was $2. So they ended up raising about $300. They took that and they bought the ground, which was just 3 acres, so it didn't cost that much, and built all their stuff and had their first fair. And like I said, they were very excited about it. So you hear we're supposed to be the Grandpa of the South, and which as far as I'm concerned, we are. It's kind of like going to Gatlinburg and saying we have we're voted #1 mountain. I don't know who votes for that stuff. I vote we're the oldest fair. We've actually had some arguments about it with Giles County, because Giles County thinks they're the open fair, but they are not, because we started on the 15th and they started on the 21st. Okay, I looked it up. You're not. It's just a few days, but I'm sorry, forget it. You don't get it. You started the next week, probably for the same reason we didn't start till then. Let's see. Now I don't know how to turn it. Okay, there you go. Okay, so there's the grandstand. Now the fair it didn't run through the Civil War. The Union soldiers camped there, burned everything before they left. There was although we didn't have a lot of battles or anything there, a lot of people, because we had the fairgrounds, stopped and gathered, like Morgan. We have a statue there or whatever for Morgan, and the Morgan Raiders, they all congregate there because they have a place to camp, and they have fields that were out there, and so they had a water base, and so it was kind of a place to be. So, but Mr. Roy, after he got it, I think he got it in about 1895, I think, when he bought it. He just, like I say, he didn't stop for nothing. The Depression, he had it. World War One, he had it. Everything, he had it. World War Two, got it. They would bring down equipment. I think you can't really tell, but that one up there at the top, they've actually got one of those caissons where the World War One, they had the caissons. But I've got pictures of where they would do all that, and so he would just embrace it, you know. And like I say, the grandstand's gone. Me and Pat don't like that, but you know what? Progress happens. So there you go. Just because we're not progressive people, don't mean nobody else is. Um, it's on the same side, but it's 300 feet east of where it was. They moved it. They moved it 300 feet after they had a flood, which changed the path of the Hickman Creek, and they moved it down. So yeah, but that's what it says. That's what it says. So that's what I go with. This is during the early fairs, as you can tell. There's two different pictures of the only thing they had then was sideshows. World's smallest man. Sideshows were a huge thing because they didn't have a lot of rides or anything like that. The food, the fellowship, and the merry-go-round. That's pretty much it. And the merry-go-round was turned by mules or horses, so there was no electricity at the fair for a long time. Yeah, the Mr. Rob Roy received this letter from somebody that skipped the fence. He cheated, and so he sent the money to Mr. Rob with a note in it, and Mr. Rob put that in the I think that's the one. Yeah, money for it. Yeah. So this guy he didn't send his name. He just sent that to give him the money, then said I was sorry because I slipped over the fence, and he felt bad about it. So Mr. Rob put it in a fair book. So this down here is where, well, you can tell that's first cars. They had car shows when they came out, and they had a bicycle club. Mr. Rob is the one on the kind of a big wheel on this end, the very, very last one on my side. He's kind of a boy there. The grandstand that you see there, the first stands were more like circus seats, so it was just like boards going up. And the grandstand was actually in Rome in Smith County. They had a fair. They had a nice grandstand. A lady there got gored by a bull, and they had to close their fair down. So they bought it in Alexandria. DeKalb County Fair bought it. They went over and moved it, took it down piece by piece, and moved it over to Alexandria Fair. The one down in the corner there is an older one. You can see the woman's building behind it. It was a two-story. You went up on the grandstand and across a wooden footbridge to get over in it, or you could go around the back. And because of the slant on the land, it was about 2 steps up off the ground on that side. Then they had cattle and stock underneath it. Let me see what's next. This is after one of the tornadoes in the 1920s. It was that year. I think I got that on there. That year at that tornado, they lost the grandstand, and I mean it's damaged bad enough you can't use it. They had to fix it. It wasn't like totally blown away because it's still there, but they lost all their barns. They lost their stables. They lost 300 foot of fence. They lost the woman's building, which they had just built, and it was supposed to be the biggest woman's building in any southern place. I mean, Mr. Rob was serious when he did something. He was serious. This was what was left after the tornado came through. This was also in a fair book, but I also have some old pictures that are in pretty tough shape, like those other ones that went through a storm. And but they built all that happened in June, and they built all of it back by the time the fair came. So, man, did they work it. So I'm like, we can't get stuff done for a year, and they do all that. So, it's just hard. I can't believe that they did that. Circuses, of course, were a big thing, which explains why Alexandria has a law that you cannot let your elephant run loose. So it can't, it obviously happened, and they had to make a law about it. Up on the top corner, that's E.Z. Scott. He was an owner in the 50s and 60s. That's Grandpa Jones. He was also an owner. He came up and performed. They had a lot of opera stars that would come and perform at the fair. But the biggest hit was always the midgets or the small people or whatever. And they traveled fairs all over the country. And I saw on Tennessee Gin, I think they were looking. A lady that's actually was her mom. One of them was her mother, and she was trying to find what happened to her. I think she's normal. She said she was regular size. She wasn't little, but she knew her mother was little. That they were at the carnivals that went through the South, and the names. And so I have a postcard that's got the names on the back, and her name was on it. So I sent her a copy of the postcard, and I said, I don't know which one is your mom, but one of these people is. She was so excited. I said, I can't trade that. Of course, the smallest mule, I mean, anything that was a shad show was great. There's just showing the double gazebo. And this band came from Warren County. The Warren County band always came down and played at the fair. And that was a big, huge thing because if you were an Alexandria girl and you got one of the band members to walk you around, oh, yeah. That's all I want to say is, yeah, you were hot that week. Everybody was envying them. This is some of the grandstand. They're there for the swine. That was during the day. They did a lot of the animal things during the day. But they had these little things here that come up behind that pole. You see that little doorway. So if you went down in the doorway under the grandstands, which that was not there when I was growing up, that was, but the grandstand underneath wasn't anything. All the chickens and stuff were under the grandstand. And on the far end of the grandstand, like where you see the midway on the end, like where the burger barn is, if you go to the fair, on that end of the fairground. I guess that's the east, would be the east end. They had like a pub, and you could buy whiskey by the drink or by the keg. And that was a very popular place to be. I'm sure I wouldn't let me in. Up here on the front, that's some of the swings that was in the 1940s. My mom's standing there with her hand on her hip, looking back in the middle. My grandmother took that picture. That is I've got one that shows both of there's two on there. It's the barbecue fried chicken, country ham. One was owned by Tucker's. I don't know if y'all ever remember Tucker's sausage and stuff. It was run by Tucker's. And then there was one beside it, and it was run, I don't know by who, but they had beer for a nickel. Okay, both of those exciting, I know. Okay, that's Mr. Rob Roy. That's what he put out at Christmas. And that down there is the 5-seater. There's the 5-seater outhouse. Let me show you. Or 8-seater. I think it was 8. Here. Women's bathroom. Hanging over the creek right there. And I actually used that bathroom a few times. It was still there when I was little. This is Miss Gaynell Brown Willoughby. She was one of the first beauty pageants winners. And this is Miss Elaine Crowder. I don't know who that one is, but that's one of the babies, of course. And then that's Deborah Stone. She's from up here, I think. And Patsy Williams at one of the later beauty pageants. Beauty pageants were different than they are now. Too. The first year they did beauty pageants, they had judges that would walk through the crowd. They would pick the prettiest lady and the most handsome man. You didn't walk down, you didn't bet the dress, you didn't walk down the thing. It was just these people, you don't know who they are. They pick you, they decide, and you're the king and queen of the fair. So that's where she went it that way. Then later on, you had to have a season pass to be considered. You still walked around, but you had to have a season pass. I guess, I don't know why. Then they started doing the walk, where they started to do the walk, and you had the pretty dresses and stuff. They started that, but that really didn't start, not at our fair, till like the 50s. So that wasn't always the way it was. I'm kind of liking the one where you go out in the crowd and find the prettiest lady. I think that's kind of cool. They also had days like if you had the biggest family, if you were married twice, you had 16 kids, and you had the husband, they didn't care. If you have the biggest family come to the fair, you get in free. You just counted them. If you had 10 or over, they let you in free. Now, they had one of the things you could win was you could put in a drawing and win and get married at the fair in front of the grandstand. And we have people come, sometimes we have stuff that are older that got married at the fair. I mean, this was not, I think they've done that at the Wilson County Fair since they've been having it. But it was a big deal. I guess you absolutely have a group there. Um, they had they would have events like the Red-Headed Rooster contest. Yes. What? Oh, you're talking about? I'm sorry, I thought you was holding prayer. Um, they had like a the lady that had the closest hair to a red-headed rooster, the winning red-headed rooster, she won something. They had a rock-a-bye baby contest where men would go up and rock their babies to sleep on the stage. First one rocked their babies to sleep won. I mean, it was just the grease pig contest was when you caught the first pig, you got to keep the first pig. You got to keep that pig. That's a big deal. That's a big deal for farmers. So while all this fun is going on, the agriculture department is always bringing new equipment, new seeds, whatever they want these farmers to learn about, and that's part of it. That's why the fair started, was to teach people. And it wasn't a carnival. It wasn't. It was about the agriculture department not teaching necessarily, but just informing farmers of what's out there because there was no other way to do it. Um, the one thing I thought was really interesting, you could enter in May, and if you're within 20 miles of the fair here, you could enter your farm, and they come out and judge your farm, and you won for the best farm because they would judge your stock, how your barns were kept up, any machinery you had. The ladies could get on it. They would teach you about your kitchen, how much counting you did. All that was involved. So, and like I say, the ladies' building was really big. Yeah, I'm saying that to you, Brian. I think if we do one, you and Harold out on the evening. Okay, this is more early. This is more our time or my time. How many remember the Hoochie Coochie show? Me. I didn't bring I didn't bring the picture of the crowd. I have one looking the other direction. Tommy Webb made this picture, and I have one looking the other direction, but I was afraid we would know somebody, so I didn't put that up there. Um, this is what you get when you get a color picture. You get all these pretty lights. I don't know if me or Pat made that, but one of us did. There's rides like when I was growing up, the Tempest, and there's like I say, that's the grandstand, more like it looked when it was there were stairs that came off this end, and the whiskey place was under this end of the fair. Yeah, big old wide stairs that were kind of short, so you could walk up them real easy. And like I say, this is more what we've seen. Like I say, back to sideshows, I thought these were good. There's the things, and I've got some names. But the lady there in the elephant, got the elephant's mouth there, she became really good friends with Mr. Rob Roy's oldest daughter, and Miss Louise gave me that picture. Um, and this is, they also had a black fair, and Mr. Dibb and Mr. Fletcher, who was Fletcher, is that right? Did you read that? He was from Nashville, but he was raised in Alexandria, and they put on the black fair. Now the blacks could go to the fair. But they were segregated away from, like when they sat on the grandstand, there was a petitioned off place for them to sit, and there was a few things they could enter, but not like this. This was their fair, and they put it on, and it was a big deal. So I got these pictures from Miss Inez Bass. She was Inez Tubbs. She's right there on this far side, and Mr. Dow and John Ray. I don't know if some people really know John Ray. He's there in the middle. But they had that fair. It started. I think the first uh, advertisement that I found for it was 1895, and then it went on until Mr. Dibb died. And let's see. This is our agriculture. This is in the 60s down here on this corner. That's the view off the back of the grandstand on the west side of the grandstand. We can look off. These four animals, the cow, the mule, the pig, and the horse, all won Best of Show at the DeKalb County Fair, and then they went to the State Fair, and they also won Best of Show there, and that was in 1964. Yeah, I thought that was impressive that they went on. I don't know whose they are. It doesn't say. But it did say that, and so I know that. And then there's the 4-H'ers showing their cattle in the day. Like I say, they did that in the daytime. I don't know. I don't know. They didn't have any names on the back. There's some mule pools. They were very popular and drew a big crowd. Look how much weight they've got on that one in the middle. Man, I'm glad I'm not that mule. Um, they also had things for teams with tack and everything. They had just like horse shows. They did horse shows. They did buggy. They did the I can't think what that race is called, where you have two wheels and you're kind of just sitting on there. Ah, it's left me. Y'all know what I'm talking about? It's not a what? Yes, they had those races there too. I remember those when I was little. Um, they had Children's Day, and that little girl won a pony on that day. Would be during the day. Let's see what that is. Now I've lost my mouse, y'all. There we go. Oh, there you go. All right, there's another thing of sideshows, and as I say, those were all down in the the bottom part of the like where now we have the carnival. That and all of the women's building stuff was down in there. That right there is the Flippins. They won Best Surrey. It's gone now. It was set across from First Baptist. It's set across from First Baptist Church in Alexandria. Who owned it, Pat? Well, the Flippins on it then. Um, let's see. I can't think of it. Okay, thank you. I'm about half dead, but it is. It was a beautiful house. Tommy took a lot of pictures in that house before they tore it down. It was really pretty. Um, there's my Uncle Bob. You see, I put that in there because you can see the WJLE radio thing back there in the back. I thought that was interesting. And then there's the bikes and the cars, and I've got some writing on there. Of course, I can't read it because it's not plain enough. But that little man down here, he went to the first fair, and that's a picture of him when he got old. He's 93 in that picture. And I think that's it. Now I wanted to show you some stuff I've got up here. Let me turn on the light. Like I say, collect everything. My house is so crowded. This is a ticket. They put these tickets on flyers, and then they put them in an airplane, and they would fly over, and they would drop them out. These were on random. You won a ticket sometimes, but sometimes you just got a handbill. But that's the ticket that came off that. Here is a ribbon. Where's it from? 1903. That came from the fair. They would have elect people to be like president of the fair, and they were kind of like a ringmaster. They wore the tail, they always had the top hat and the tail, and they would like announce stuff coming out. So that's a president's ribbon. I have this is one of the older ones. Let's see, I think I have a 1900. This was 1906, and I have a 1903, and that was 1903. I thought they would be gold mines, and kind of they are, but kind of not, because all the advertising in here is from Nashville. Test me if I care about Nashville. But I have those are but I have every year from 1910 books all the way to now. I bet if I don't miss just a couple out. So these are, it's not the 62, it's the 62nd fair. It's actually in a 1920, what, 8. So these are good because by this time we're advertising locally. And so I could get a lot of businesses that names and stuff out of that. So, and I find Mr. Rob, he also ran the newspaper. So he had access to things like, if you put pictures in, one of the things I like in these books is it'll say, like when Abraham Lincoln was president, the Alexandria Fair had been in service so many years. When Eisenhower was on the Alexandria Fair or the DeKalb Fair I'm sorry, I call it Alexandria Fair, so I can't help it. I just do that because I'm in Alexandria and that's what it is to me, I guess. This one is the 40s. I got all them. But like I said, they're really valuable in the content of what's in them. It tells you what they enter, what you could enter. I know there's one in there for the best handmade shirts. They had one in there. It's just the stuff they had but they were always full, I think. This is, after the word gets out to you, collect stuff, then people start coming to you, picking up stuff. This is a suit. I have this suit. It was the president of the fair the year, let's see what year it was. I think it was 1910. So I've got this suit, and in the pocket of this suit was these things from the fair. It's a piece of this ribbon, and then that said president, just like that one. It's just that they've lost a lot of it, and it's a bracelet that's got something written on it. I guess was his sweetie. I don't know. Um, this is 1920s, and I love this fair book. This is called Color. Look how he colored it. Isn't that correct? Um, this is from a newspaper. Now this, I had this. I was so excited when I got this. I'm still excited I have this. 1916 out of the newspaper. But I don't bring them because I've got them in each individual thing. But I've got 1894, 95, or 1895. How many? Five. And then when it starts and it goes on up. So I put all the pages. But this would have been one that had torn up somebody else had, and they gave it to me. This was the first piece I got of the newspaper. And then another family uh, found the newspapers in a garbage bag where their dad had saved them and come and said, "You want these?" And I was like, "Yeah." So Richard's like, "Will you stop?" It's like it's under the bed, it's in the closet, in my dress. I have a dresser that's just full of stuff. Here's a duck. Many people picked up a duck. Pick up a duck. That actually came from somebody that actually picked up a duck at Alexandria, DeKalb County Fair. This picture, I thought I had it in that thing, but I didn't. And that's a little fragile, but I want you to pass around and look at it because we're working on stuff for this. Yes, this church is gone. There's so much back here, but you can see the barn down here in the bottom where we have rides, and that's a good picture. So you can just pass around and look at it. Like I say, it's a little fragile, but not so much. If you can't have it, enjoy it while I have it. I also take, and I don't think I have those out. I think I have those in the box. I've also got stuff from like old fairs in other states. If it's earlier than 1920 and I see it on eBay and it's not terrible, I buy it. So I've got tickets, I've got books, I've got, I just like I say I love the fair. What can I say? So the fair, like I said, the fair it was always privately owned until 1994. City bought it, and they made that board that you saw that had the first board. That was public. So now when the fair runs, it's totally volunteer, and everybody volunteers to help. And sometimes it gets low on the volunteers. So if anybody wants to volunteer, call Miss Pat, or call me, or call somebody. There's always something to do, from taking up tickets to working in the women's building. There's always something to do. We're trying to find somebody now to take over the cattle show because those people have been doing it 20-something years. They're tired. They want to go home. I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. So anytime you want a fair, and everything they make, they put back into the fair. So if we make $10,000, it's going to go and paying up for a building. It's going to go, it's going to go into something on the ground, and that's just the way. Though the city doesn't really get any money out of it, but they do own it. If we ever made like $1 million, we'd probably have to give them some. But that ain't never going to happen. I'm telling you, we're a long way from that. But it's just keeping the upkeep on the ground and paying the electric bill and paying water. It's all you can do just to keep the thing open. So she's a treasure. Yeah. So she knows this stuff. So let's say if you want to ever volunteer, it's not, nobody's getting any money. When you go in there and you work your butt off and it's hot and you're tired and you think, and you see somebody and you think, I bet they're making, no, they're not. They're not making anything. The only people making is people we bring in to do an event. And some of them are volunteers too. We try to get less money all the time. We try to spend less money. I think this was in that pocket too. I don't know. 1903. There's a badge. Got a picture on it. They're pretty flashy, I tell you. So whenever, like I say, people ask me how I get stuff, I get it on eBay, I go to auctions. People know I collect it. The lady that brought me this, she owned a flower shop in Murfreesboro, and I'd been in there to buy flowers, and she went to a yard sale in Franklin. And this came from Franklin, and I'm like, sure. She just shows up. Would you like that? I gave $5 for this. I was like, well, yeah, I'll give you 10. She made money. So I guess that's it. I'll say I'm not a big speaker person, but I'm passionate about stuff, so there's one of my passions. I also collect many other things, like anything Alexandria. Got a million pictures. That wasn't even all of them that you saw on the thing. I got so many more. And I think he loves history too, because Mike Jones lived in Alexandria. He's got a lot of stuff from when he was there. So anything you got, I'm glad to have. If you don't throw it away, do not throw it away. I've got Eastern. You're right. Yeah, you don't have to give them. You can just let us copy. I mean, now technology is so great, which I hate it, by the way. I hate technology. Just anybody that is proved by my skill. PowerPoint. Yeah. Ugh. It's like I told him, I said, every time I learn the computer, they change it. You know how many years I've been learning to run a computer? And I've known since what, eight? I mean, I was one of the people that had that first Apple, you know. And why do you, if it's find, why do you want to move it to another place and call it search? It's like it's the same blame button. It does the same blame thing. Can you just leave it where it was and not change the name? Because those of us who are tech not tech savvy would love that. Okay, Mr. Freddie.